Um, when all this started in January or March is when it started for me. I got laid off. I didn't have any money, and I had to figure stuff out for myself and see really from a financial standpoint. That was the biggest perspective for me to make any headway on. So I eventually got brought back on at my job, but I didn't have any money for probably a month or two, where I was just really trying to figure stuff out on my own. So that's kind of how all this started, and now I'm in a place where I can kind of live comfortably a little bit, at least for right now. Yeah.
My situation's been kind of interesting. I work at a bar in a kind of upper class area in North Georgia where they never shut down. They were never once told to shut down, So people all, kept coming out, and at first I was really worried, but like most things, you get used to it, like used to dealing with that mental fear of contagion and whatnot. But they never shut down, but we also started getting unemployment. So we had checks coming in, and it was not a bad time money-wise for me personally, but I know a lot of people are struggling, so I think it's important, if you're in that same situation where you received a good bit of money from the government, that you use it in ways that will be helpful to rebuild.
I mean, I think to not even speak on the financial aspect of it, I was kind of oh, okay, it's here. This whole thing is here, and I was like, when are the soldiers coming and all that, And now it's been the last few weeks. It's that whole situation is going down in certain cities, and it just kind of gave me the general feeling of okay, well, it's here. And I had a pretty hard time dealing with that personally for a little while. I think a lot of people were thinking more about the financial situation, more personally about how it's going on. Me, I mean, there's that was a big part of it, but also for a long time I was also worried about the time of my life where some shit was going to go down. And I was like, this is here. And I remember thinking, just imagining visions of really catastrophic type scenes. And it's only been the last few weeks now, and since the protests and all that, you're starting to see some more of that go down. And how those things are connected, I could never tell. But that was my original fear. Is that
Dystopia?
Dystopia.
I will say the protests changed about, I think that started in June. It was June 1st or so. The whole month of June was completely different from the last 2 months. It was all protesting against a great cause and trying to expound upon freedoms, and to really go against oppressive governments.
And everyone had the time to think about it and also act on it, at least for a brief period of time.
So that definitely shifted the pandemic focus from, all this is going on, but there's also people that are really struggling, and an entire class of people struggling while the pandemic is happening.
Yeah,
for sure. That definitely shifted perspectives. In the middle of a pandemic.
Right, those two separate things, the pandemic and the protests, they kind of they really conflicted with each other, because the entire point of the pandemic is to not be together, and the entire point of a protest is to be together.
Right.
And so that's such a weird thing that happened.
And they were both kind of the pandemic had the righteous vision of stay inside, don't spread it, and the protests had their own righteous vision of go out and fight for all these things. So it really brought pedal to the metal at that point.
And I think we're just viewing the aftermath and watching it kind of probably get worse. Yeah, I know, it is getting worse, but
it's probably different from here to Atlanta too. Atlanta was very hot for a minute, for probably a whole month or so of protests.
But right now it's the federal agents and all that. It's hitting really big in Portland and all that,
Right.
And we're
standing
with
with Portland, but it's a little bit different, and it's especially different in a city like Savannah that's not as closely related to the outside world. I guess it's kind of its own thing.
Yeah, geographically,
for sure.
Yeah.
I would say initially, yes. Cut deep with anyone in your life who's old or physically has problems. Cut deep in those aspects, which is closely personal for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I would
past that, there's the closing down of places and there's the losing of your job and all those things, and it affects your. I would say we've all had to redefine what that even means to us in order to live some kind of life where anything is happening other than being in your bedroom.
there are a lot of people who I wanted to see and spend time with in this time that I can't. Like just friends, like not even like family, of course, but just like certain friends don't want to, risk going out anymore. And I've gone in and out of that mindset a lot, but I think it's for the best. Like to make people comfortable, I just don't ask to hang out. But I miss my friends, and that's something you got to deal with. You just have to deal with it.
So especially in the second wave, or still a part of the first wave, you start to see, your friends and people that you know a little bit more affected by the pandemic, and it kind of affects you more personally. So that affects your happiness overall, for sure. So it's definitely,
There's a calculation in your head that involves doing anything, whether it's work related or personally related. There's this calculation you do in your head based on facts that you don't know anything about. You've just heard this and you've heard that, and it might be from like something that has no basis on reality at all, or it might be something you should listen to, and there's no way to prove any of those things. So I think we all spend a lot of time doing that calculation in our head. How that affects your happiness, I don't know. It's exhausting.